Well, once again, thank you everybody for taking the time to come and join us this evening. It's a very big honor. There are two honors tonight. We have Ta Kwan, who is co-hosting, and she is always wonderful to have on our calls. And she's a wonderful leader in our group and with our team. And so we honor her tonight. And we also honor our special guest, Dr. Andrea Holmes. Now, Dr. Andrea Holmes is a very important leader in our organization because she believes in light and frequency, because of her doctorate that she holds. So she really gives credibility to the patches and she really backs up, David's thought process. I think that, if they were to meet, they would be kindred spirits, and I don't think they would stop talking. That's for sure. So her motto is stand taller, move stronger, live longer. Now, Dr. Andrea has her doctorate in chiropractic, and so she believes in all things when it comes to people holistically. And, our spine and standing taller is so important. And she incorporates everything that she does in her practice around the individual, not just how did you get that situation, what's going on as the root cause. So she's really, really versed in that. Not only that, but she has written a book and she's a best-selling author, and that is Slowing the Aging Process, 5 Simple Steps to Look and Feel Younger. We'll take a look at that book in a little bit. But before we get started, I want to just make a disclaimer and let you know that I'm not a doctor and I certainly don't play one on TV. You are going to have the ability to hear from a doctor who also has her master's in sports science. So this is a wonderful opportunity this evening. However, we're not here to say that we diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. This is a wellness product. And so Dr. Andrea is going to talk about how the body works and how photobiomodulation may work for you. Before we get going, like I said, she's got 25 years in clinical experience in chiropractic and sports science. She has a whole body approach that she uses, and she is a published author. Now, you can, if you'd like to get her book, it's a fabulous book, and it is a best-selling book as well. Now, I'm bugging at her and I'm poking at her to say, the next book that you write, I hope that you have the patches in it. And I think she silently is nodding yes to that. So that's a discussion for another day. But we're really pleased that she's on our team and we're fortunate to have her. Thank you, Dr. Andrea, so much for joining us this evening.
Of course. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. First, I want to talk a little bit about how I got involved in the patches, because for me, as a chiropractor, I spend my whole day bent over helping other people who have back pain. And the day before the women's show last year, my back tweaked, and it tweaked pretty good. And I was in quite the agony and I could hardly move. And I was just kind of, when you can't really move because you're in so much discomfort, that was me. And so my really good friend said to me, I have these patches, you should try them. And I was like, oh, okay. Because as a chiropractor, everyone thinks that they all want me to join their team because somehow or another I'm going to make everyone rich. I don't know where that comes from, but that's where it comes from. So we put the patches on my back, and within 5 minutes I could move. And my mouth dropped. I mean, I got the look, like Lisa talks about. It's the look. It's the, oh, what just happened? Like, how am I moving? Like, this doesn't make sense. Now, it's not medication. I didn't go from an 8 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10 or a 0. I went more to like 4 or 5. And so for me, that was a huge bonus because I could actually do the event without any issues. And so I really started going, okay, what is going on with these things? What am I looking at? And how is this going to help my patients? And so that's where I'm coming from. It has made a drastic change in a lot of things with me. And we'll talk about that as we go through. But here's the thing. In my world, the biggest problem that nobody's talking about is really your nervous system, right? Because one of the reasons people are on this call is because we are talking about stress and aging and how all of this integrates. And when we look at it, chronic stress doesn't just make you feel anxious, it rewires your whole body, and silently and consistently and at the cellular level, right? People are constantly feeling physical symptoms caused by stress. Think of the executive because of the amount of stress that's in his life or her life, right? Cortisol, which is your stress hormone, floods your system daily. Your body stays in survival mode when you're in chronic stress. Healing, digestion, and repair gets shut down, and every system in your body pays the price. So, stress isn't just a feeling. You can't just say, oh, I'm really stressed out. It's really a biological state, and it's running your whole life. What are the stress responses, right? So when we are under chronic stress, we go into what we all know is the fight or flight response. But do we actually know what that means? Fight or flight means that you are having a bear coming at you and you are going to have to either fight the bear or you're going to have to run like crazy. But at one point, that bear goes away. And so when you're trying to fight that bear, all the blood from your core goes into the extremities because you have to be strong enough to fight off the bear. And so what happens is your digestion slows down, your hormones are disrupted, your inflammation starts rising, your heart rate goes up, you can't sleep because how could you possibly sleep if you're trying to fight off a bear? It doesn't make sense. So everything that is central slows down and everything that goes into the extremities goes really, it gets heightened because now you got to get strong. When you're out of that fight and flight, when the bear goes away, you've either fought the bear off or you run away like crazy. Now you go into that healing and repair mode. That's when all the blood comes back in, and now you can start digesting your food, and now you can start sleeping. Hormones become balanced again. Cellular repair becomes active because now you have to repair all the damage that may have happened while you were trying to fight off the bear. Most women over 40 are spending 80 to 90% of their time in fight or flight without even knowing it. So if you're wondering why you can't sleep and you're wondering why you're having digestive issues as we get older, that's part of the problem. So what's really happening with aging, right? Aging is really it's misunderstood because most people believe it's inevitable that we're just going to age no matter what. But aging is not your fault. It's driven by all the things that are happening in your world. Environmental stressors, cellular changes, energy deficits that accumulate over time. Understanding this is important towards trying to figure out how to make it better. So at the heart of the aging process lies your mitochondria. It is your energy producing powerhouses within every single cell in your body. So as we age and as the environmental toxins and free radicals and oxidative stress accumulates in our body because of what's happening in the environment around us, the mitochondrial function begins to decline. The result, you have less cellular energy. You are slower to recovery. You have reduced cognitive clarity. Things just don't make, you can't just kind of catch things the way you used to. And the gradual breakdown of tissue joints and structural integrity occurs as well. So it's not just that you're looking older, but it's about feeling that in every movement you make, you're starting to feel older. And environmental factors play an enormous role. You are in control of a lot of these factors. And that's some of the stuff that we're going to talk about, right? It's the chronic inflammation, the poor sleep quality, the processed foods that are laden with free radicals. Your body just doesn't even know how to process them. The environment pollutants that are all over the place, right? They are also causing issues. Our bodies are really strong, but it gets to a point where it's just above and beyond what your body can handle. It's just too much. And so what we want to do is we want to start looking at these the factors that are within our influence, because then we can make a change. So it's not that you're just getting older. Something else is stealing your energy. So if are you exhausted no matter how much you sleep? Weight that won't bulge despite everything you try? And of course, brain fog, mood swings, aches, things that just make you feel like you're aging. I'm asking, what if maybe age isn't the problem? Maybe stress is the actual problem. So when we look at stress, what ends up happening is now we start looking at stem cells and how they decline. Because one of the most striking and least discussed aspect of actual aging is the dramatic decrease in stem cell activity. Right? So stem cells are the body's master repair crew. They're responsible for regenerating damaged tissue, replenishing aging cells, maintaining structural and functional integrity of virtually every cell in your body. These stem cells are abundant and active. When they're abundant and active, the body heals, adapts, and rebuilds with remarkable efficiency. But here's the sobering reality. By the time we reach 30, our stem cell population has already dropped by roughly 50%. By the age of 60, there's only 10% of these stem cells functionally active. That's why we don't heal as quickly we used to. That's why we're more tired. That's why we have more gray hair and we have more wrinkles, right? This is a slow, gradual fade, and it's not this steep, no, it's like this steep decline that all the cells just start dropping one by one by one. How stress destroys your health, right? So what ends up happening? We talked a little bit about it. Weight. Cortisol triggers fat storage, especially around the belly. And as we know, visceral fat is not good. We do not want visceral fat or fat around the belly. It constrains the organs, and it's probably the worst health concern when it comes to gaining weight. Sleep, right? A wired nervous system that is stressed out cannot switch off, even if you're exhausted, because the bear is still coming at you. Because here's what's happening. If you have this physical bear around you, but let's say it's not physical, let's say this bear is emotional. The emotional bear comes at you, whether it's financial stress, relationship stress, kid stress. Now, this bear is putting his arm around your shoulder, and now you're fighting this bear 24/7. We were never designed to do that. And so when you're fighting this bear 24/7, you're not sleeping because your body's constantly thinking the bear is going to take the upper hand, right? Chronic stress keeps your body in a constant swelling, tight state. Stress also will, the stress hormones, which are like cortisol, will also hijack estrogen, progesterone, and thyroid function. And of course, aging, right? So telomere shortening accelerates, and you need longer telomeres because that is how you stay younger. And so stress literally ages your cells. So we have to control our stress. So what if you could signal your body to repair itself more naturally, right? Your nervous system is the master controller of every other system in your body. So when you reset it, everything changes. This is what I do as a chiropractor. People assume chiropractic is bone doctor. We are not. We are the furthest from that. We are a nervous system doctor because nervous system controls your cardiovascular system, your immune system. It controls your digestive, like all the systems. That's what the nervous system controls. So we want to regulate our system. So we want to shift from fight and flight to rest and repair. We want to restore. So we want to reactivate your body's natural healing systems. And of course, we want to renew. We want to reclaim the energy, the clarity, and the vitality we used to have, because it isn't about doing more. It's about unlocking what your body already knows how to do, or how to do it and what to do. So let's talk a little bit about photobiomodulation and the power of these LifeWave patches. So one of the tools in my toolkit is this technology that has been around for decades called photobiomodulation. This is the science of using specific wavelengths of light to stimulate biological activity in the cells. What does that mean? Think of vitamin D. When you go outside in the sun, you're getting specific wavelengths of the sun that trigger signaling in the body that produces your vitamin D. So rather than introducing foreign chemicals into the body, photobiomodulation works with the body's own electrical magnetic field, using light energy to trigger natural healing responses that may otherwise be dormant or suppressed, such as we age. LifeWave patches represents a breakthrough in application of this technology. Like, it's spectacular what it does. These are non-transdermal patches and are designed to be worn on your skin, where it interacts with the body's infrared heat because we all emit light, and it reflects specific wavelengths of light back into the tissue. The result is this targeted signaling that affects and activates peptide productions. It supports the mitochondrial function, like we talked about, and it stimulates the body's own regenerative processes, all without drugs, without needles, or invasive procedures. It is why I'm so intrigued by these patches. It falls within my health wheel, so to speak. So for all of us who are health conscious, the appeal is very straightforward. It's non-invasive, it's natural, and it's evidence-informed modality that works in concert with your body's innate intelligence rather than overriding it and shutting it down. So I have integrated the LifeWave patches into my clinic, And I've used it as one of the cornerstones for cellular level support, and the results speak for themselves. So, this is a wellness technology that represents the body's wisdom, but yet it amplifies it. It makes your body able to do what it knows what to do, but it just sometimes needs a little bit of extra help. So let's talk a little bit about the Aeon patch. This is one that I typically use a lot in the office because it calms the nervous system, which is my wheelhouse, right? So when I look at this whole body philosophy, the nervous system is just part of this equation, right? So when we look at the nervous system and it's chronically overstimulated, it operates in this constant fight or flight, like we talked about, and every other system in the body pays the price, like we talked about. So recovery slows down. So for me as a chiropractor, people don't heal as quickly as what they should when they're under a tremendous amount of stress. It also causes issue with sleep. And of course, when you don't sleep because of stress, then you can't heal. Same idea. This is where the Aeon patch enters into my protocol, right? It's designed to work through the same photobiomodulation mechanisms as all the other patches. But this patch specifically focuses on resetting and calming the nervous system. So, by signaling the body towards a parasympathetic state, like we talked about, that rest and healing state, not the fight and flight, it is commonly called, like we said, rest and digest. The Aeon patch helps create a neurological condition necessary for regeneration to occur. Who doesn't want that? So it reduces overwhelm, it improves stress resilience, it allows for deeper sleep. So when you're dealing with stress, fixing it isn't a luxury. You have to do something about it. And this patch becomes the foundation to what I use. So here are some signs and symptoms that your nervous system needs a little bit more support. You're chronically fatigued and that sleep doesn't seem to fix. You have a heightened sense of overwhelm, or you have difficulty recovering from physical exertions. You have poor sleep quality or frequent waking throughout the night. Your digestive system is irregular, and you may have lots of bloating. You have reduced ability to concentrate or focus. How does the Aeon patch help? It activates the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. It reduces the swelling in the body. It supports balance through nervous system regulation, creates neurological conditions for repair, and it's amazing when you start pairing it with some of the other slides. So I'm going to pass this on to Lisa. She has a couple of things to say here.
Thank you, Dr. Andrea. That is fantastic. I just am fascinated every time you present, and I will never get tired of it. Thank you. Neon is a really amazing patch. Sometimes you go with your intuition. And I happened to be over at Dr. Andrea's on New Year's, and her friend, Dave, her partner, was there. And I believe he's on the call today. And he came over and he was going really quick, and he shaves his head because that's his style. And he nicked himself really badly. And instinctively, I was just like, I think we need to put an Eon right on it. And so we did. And he, as you can see in this photo, he got himself really, really good. There's a few layers there. So that was 9 o'clock p.m. on New Year's Eve. Patched him on the head directly. And I know sometimes they say don't put it directly on something. I took a chance. And 12 hours later, that picture on the opposite side is the result. He was shocked. And he was just like, are you kidding me? I was shocked. And I thought, I couldn't believe it. I had seen this before on a foot that I patched. And it was a gentleman that nothing was working for closing up. Sometimes you get sores on your feet as you get older. And so his wife had called the next day and said, Lisa, that started to close up overnight. And I was like, wow. So I had that in my memory. And I thought, why don't we try this? So that is the end result 12 hours later. That is remarkable, in my opinion. So I'm a person that loves to patch. So I've got a couple of tricks in my toolbox. But I want to show you this remarkable photo. This is Cindy, and Cindy's with us here on the call tonight. A lot of people know Cindy Durney. She has an amazing story about her foot. Now, her foot was operated on when she was 9 years old. She had some complications with the way that she was born, and it was the thing that they did back in the day. So she was never able to do the childhood things that most children could do. She couldn't really play sports, so she didn't really run. She didn't have a life that was like that because of her foot situation. This redness on her foot, where it's kind of elevated, that scarring and redness is over 50 years old, or was at the time when she started wearing the patches. She started wearing them for cardiovascular issue because she had an incident that kind of woke her up to, oh boy, I need to take care and find a different modality. I'm happy to say that her energy has improved, her mood is lifted, and she has had all kinds of different wonderful things happen in regards to her heart. However, the residual that happened that she wasn't expecting was 10 days after she started on the patches. She had told me, she said, Lisa, I looked down at an age spot that I've had on my hand forever and I couldn't find it. And of course, I'm just this freak that says, take pictures, whatever, any kind of skin condition. I said, did you take a picture? She said, no. I said, oh, darn. Okay. Well, she called me one day and she goes, you're not going to believe my foot. I did take a picture of that. This is 8 months later. There's no redness. The scar tissue, she said it used to be raised. It's even better than this now. It's smooth. You know how you get like a roped scar sometimes when things have been a long time? Gone. And I know that there's a gentleman on this call tonight whose friend also experienced the same with a C-section scar. It took her 3 months and she had had that scar for 35 years. But I'm telling you, it is really something when you wake the body up to do the deep repair that it's meant to do. So I do want to say that if you are not somebody who's on the patches currently and you want to start, take a picture of any skin condition, any scar, take a picture of your face because that also changes. Dr. Andrea's actually had people ask her, what is she doing? And she said, oh, I didn't do anything. They think she's had a procedure, but she hasn't. She's just getting younger. So one of the things that I love about this is that there's so many vast stories, and there's stories about skincare. There's stories about Dr. Andrea's back situation. For me, it was my shoulder. I'd had rotator cuff surgery, and I was really in bad shape. And so it took me a long time to recover. But during that process, I ended up really hurting this shoulder. I was kind of like a little T-Rex. I couldn't reach up for any glass to get out of the cupboard. I couldn't even get my coat on. It was really excruciating. And I had lived like that for a long time, and I was exhausted from dragging myself around. And I couldn't even lift a 5 pound bag of groceries. And I went to a horse show, and this random stranger, they saw me coming because I was just, struggling to move. And I was moaning and groaning. And they said, excuse me, we've got this patch and we think it might help you. It's kind of like Reiki in a patch. And I know about energy. So I was like, oh, I'd love to try it. It was actually meant for a horse. I was so fortunate that they never met up with that person and they put that on my shoulder. It was a dual patch. It's called Ice Wave. It's a tan and a white patch that work together. And I went from not being able to move to lifting my arms both over my head. And I got the look like, what just happened here? I could not believe it. Now, I want to let you know that I'm a one patch wonder in that way. And so I want to let you know that not everybody's going to be that way. For every 10 years you've been on the planet, give it a month because chronic situations didn't happen overnight. It's going to take some time to do the repair. So do your body good, do your body a favor and say, I'm committed to giving this a go because we don't know where the deep repair in your body is going to go. Your liver might be going, come over here and help me. Or it might be your tissue, or it might be your brain might have fog and it might be like, no, we got to go right here. So you may not feel it working, but as Dr. Andrea said, we know that this is working. And based on the research as well, we really know this is working. We're on PubMed, and PubMed it's globally renowned for having the best studies, and it's the most recognized in the world for credibility. And we have 3 studies that are on there. So you're free and you're welcome to look those up or get back to the person that introduced you to this. There's massive science. You're welcome to research that. The efficacy, the credibility, and validity is there. We have also won the Stem Cell Innovation Award of 2025, which is very incredible. And this award recognizes that in combination, X39 is a patch. Dr. Andrea, do you have that package in front of you? X39 is the foundational signature patch that goes in combination with Eon that we wear on our bodies to wake up our master cells. And there's also a product called Cellergize Morning. We don't have that in Canada. I know there's a lot of Canadians here. Unfortunately, we don't have that Cellergize Morning. What it is it's a supplement with minerals and vitamins, and it goes in conjunction with X39. And that combination gave us the Breakthrough Award of 2025. Now, it doesn't mean that X39 on its own is not going to work for you. It is a game changer. There are some things that Dr. Andrea is going to go through about how to use your resources to get the best out of these patches as you go along. But do take a look at the X39 and the Eon. And Dr. Andrea is going to jump in and explain a bit more about that.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the X39, which is that foundational patch, right? So if with all the LifeWave patches that I work with, the X39 really holds the foundational place in my protocol because it's designed to elevate naturally occurring levels of copper peptides in the body, which are called GHKCU, or they're copper peptides, right? And this remarkable peptide has been extensively studied and is associated with a wide range of regenerative and anti-aging effects at the cellular level. It is the precursor to our master cells. So these GHKCUs are found in the body and they play a key role in wound healing, collagen synthesis, nervous system repair, activation of stem cells. In use, levels of GHKCU are naturally really high, right? Hence, we have lots of stem cells when we're younger. And when we're younger, we tend to heal faster. We tend to be more robust. It's that youth. But then as we age, the GHKCU levels or the copper peptide levels start to decline in parallel with our stem cell population. So by elevating this peptide through the use of X39 patch, the body is essentially receiving the signal, which we've been talking about, to return to a more youthful state of cellular repair and regeneration. Who does not want that? So the implication of raising this are profound, right? It improves tissue repair, which is important in my world, enhances energy production, especially if you're fatigued all the time, has better sleep quality. I mean, who doesn't need that at this point? Reduces inflammation, noticeable improvement in mobility, structural integrity. So for my patients, X39 often marks a turning point for them. It's when things really start to come together and all the things that we've talked about. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that is that I talked to them about. So ultimately, it is the foundational layer. So the next one that we're going to talk about is the IceWave patch. This is the one that my friend ended up putting on me. This is the one that made a difference in how much mobility I had and how much easier the women's show was after I had these patches. So with these patches, it changes things because it targets kind of like the ancient wisdom of meridians and modern acupressure science. So it blends Eastern and Western medicine, right? So the human body, according to all the traditional Eastern medicine, and increasingly now supported by more and more modern bioelectric research, is organized around a network of energy pathways, as we all know, called meridians. When these pathways are flowing freely, the body maintains vitality, balance, and resilience. When they become blocked due to injury, chronic stress, emotional trauma, or structural misalignment, the energy starts to stagnate and symptoms start to emerge. Discomfort, fatigue, reduced range of motion, emotional dysregulation. This is where a lot of acupuncture comes because they come in and they try and open up the energy pathway. So when we use IceWave, they are applied to specific acupressure points along these meridian pathways to open up the blocked channels, restoring energy flow and unlocking areas of stagnation. The effect can be surprisingly immediate. Now, not everyone is the one-shot wonder like myself and Lisa. Everyone has different processes. Everyone responds differently to the patches. So just because you didn't respond the way you wanted to right away doesn't mean something else isn't happening. All right. So think of these ice wave patches as a precision energy work, targeted but non-invasive, so no needles, and grounded in both Eastern and Western science, and adding photobiomodulation to the mix, right? So in combination with the X39, the Aeon, and the Ice Wave, right, which is a two-patch system, now we're going into what we call body balancing triad. This is, if you don't know where to start, this is where you start. The way I explain it to my patients is when you're in agony and you have swelling and you are just not a happy camper, think of it like your house on fire. All right. So what happens? The fire department comes in, and now the fire department, which is your Aeon and your Ice Wave, they come in and they take out the fire. Right. So now the fire's gone, but the house is not really livable. I mean, it is, but not really. And so now you take the X39 and think of it more like your construction crew. It comes in after the fact to make the house livable again. The three work perfectly well synergistically. And it's usually my recommendation for anyone who is interested in starting and not sure where to start, because there are lots of patches. It becomes overwhelming where to start. These are your three foundational pieces to start with. Okay, so this kind of comes into my realm now, right? Because no wellness protocol, however amazing they are, can outperform poor nutritional foundation. So I am like to the point on this one. Patches, photobiomodulation, energetic therapies are all powerful and they work, but they work best when your body has the raw biochemical materials it needs to function at the cellular level. This means taking nutrition, hydration, mineralization seriously, not as an optional addition, a so-so, maybe I should do that, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but as a non-negotiable pillar of health. It is super important. We all know this. Hydration is one of the most chronically underestimated aspect of cellular health. You want to know how much you have to drink? The rule of thumb is half your weight in ounces. It is significantly more than what people think. So 4 to 5 glasses of water a day is not enough. Cells of the body require water, not just to survive, but to communicate and to transport nutrients and to eliminate waste and generate the electrical signals that drive all biological processes. It is very important. You have to drink your water. So when people are like, I don't like water, then I'm like, okay, I say, put on your big girl panties and do it anyway, because you have to do it. You have to drink your water. Okay. So mineralization is also critically important and is also overlooked. Magnesium in particular, it stands out as one of the most widely deficient mineral in the modern adult population, especially right now. Magnesium gets used up in time of stress. We have all been significantly decreased in magnesium, and it's not easy to get magnesium in our diet to the level we need to bring our lower levels back up. And so magnesium is part of over 300 chemical reactions in the body. If you don't have enough magnesium, you're going to have muscle spasms, trigger points, Charlie horse, restless legs, potentially headaches. Like, it is part of so many chemical processes that it is one of the supplements that I always tell my patients they have to take. Always. If you need help on how much, connect with me. I can help you. But it is important because it helps with ATP production, which is your energy source. It helps with muscle relaxation. It helps with your nervous system regulation, your protein synthesis. I can go on and on and on and on. You have to take magnesium, right? And especially if you have cramps in the middle of the night, it's because you are so lacking magnesium. You have to take magnesium, right? So we have to deal with proper nutrition. We have to have enough water in our system, and we have to have enough magnesium to help our body get strong enough to be able to accept all the other things that we're trying to do to help it get better. There it is. So let's look at the whole person philosophy, right? So we're not just treating your symptoms, we're treating all of you, right? It's not just your symptoms. So the biggest thing with what I do is I don't just look at your pain. You have to look at the whole person. And we're not just a collection of isolated symptoms to take this drug for that symptom, this drug for that symptom, because then all of a sudden we're taking drugs for the side effects of the drugs for that symptom. And all of a sudden it becomes this mess of your body doesn't even know what to do with all of this, right? So when you address the root cause of the dysfunction rather than the surface expression of the problem, the body responds with a depth of healing that surprises even long-term patients who've had this chronic issue. The whole person model means looking at the interplay between the alignment of your spine, the nervous system function, cellular energy, nutritional status, emotional well-being, sleep quality, movement patterns, and environmental exposures, right? So each of these dimensions affect all of us and in a continuous dynamic feedback loop. A misaligned spine is not just, whoop, go back one, too fast. A misaligned spine is not just a structural problem. It creates neurological interference where it starts irritating the nervous system. Then the nervous system can't function properly, which means it can't signal the different other systems and they start falling apart. It's all integrated, all right? So we have to look at the whole system to be able to say that we are going in the right direction. Okay, so how do we reset, right? So obviously you have influence on how you're aging. You are not the bystander here. You have direct input on how well you're aging and how poorly you're aging. And aging is changeable, right? Sure, we can't change the years, but we can certainly change how we live those years, right? So you have way more influence than most people give themselves credit for. So my approach isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about building a foundation that over time, over years, bridges all of these other issues or all of these other things that we're doing to slow down the decline of our system. So we want to optimize how our body functions. So we're going to calm our nervous system, we're going to calm our nervous system down. So we're going to reduce the inputs that keep you in fight and flight, which means you got to address the stress. We're going to activate cellular repair with phototherapy. So in my practice, we apply X39, Aeon, and Ice Wave to begin signaling the body towards repair and regeneration. We want to support the simple foundations, hydration, whole foods, gentle movement, not as punishments, but as support. We want to prioritize recovery. Sleep is when your body does this. You need sleep to heal. If you only sleep 5-6 hours, you're not really healing. You have to sleep. And sleep also gets you to the point where things start to calm down in your system. And you have to protect your sleep like your life depends on it, because it does. And you need to stay consistent. Results compound over time. It's like a bricklayer, bit by bit by bit by bit. Most people notice changes within days, but some people it takes longer because you don't always know what's happening on the inside, right? Next. And last but not least, right? The body that ages with strength and grace. So standing taller in my world is not just about posture. It's about the confidence that comes from a body that feels supported, energized, and capable. Moving stronger is not just about the gym. It's about the freedom to live your life fully without the constant limitation of agony, fatigue, restricted movement, and active and living longer is not simply about just adding years. It's about adding quality, vitality, and presence to every year you are given. So the aging process is, so to speak, not your fault, but how you respond to it is entirely within your power. So you have to give your body the support it deserves at every level, and it will give you back the quality of life that most people have just stopped believing is possible. So I will leave you with stand taller. You want to move stronger, and we all want to live longer.